Welcome back, beautiful people. My name is Jem, and I'm a psychic medium, and I'm an author. Okay, on this channel, we do mainly commentaries, and the content varies. I look at everything and anything through a lens. Okay, let's get into the commentary. Artemis, Apollo, and the Age of Doubt. Are we seeing space or a stage? There's something happening right now, not just in space, but in how we see space. Because for the first time in history, millions of people aren't just watching missions like Artemis unfold, they're analyzing every pixel, slowing down footage, zooming in, comparing frames, and questioning everything. And what they're finding, or think they're finding, is raising eyebrows and causing a lot of clickbait and conspiracies. So, let's start with one of the viral claims. A photo of Earth from an Apollo mission compared to a recent Artemis image. Same continent, same cloud patterns. That sounds impossible, right? Clouds don't freeze in time for 50 years. But here's where we need to separate signal from static. There was no Apollo 20. The final Apollo mission was Apollo 17 in 1972. So already something in that claim is off. That doesn't mean the image comparison is fake. But it does mean we need to ask, are people comparing the correct images? Could it be the same stock image reused? Or are similar weather patterns being mistaken as identical? Because human pattern recognition is powerful. Sometimes too powerful. We can see faces in clouds, which I did when I uploaded one as they were re-entering. So seeing identical clouds across decades isn't as impossible psychologically as it sounds physically. Now, let's move to the Artemis 2 footage and the phone camera anomaly. People filming astronauts in orange suits, but through their phone screens, they're invisible. That's unsettling on the surface. It feels like a glitch in reality. Before jumping to, they weren't really there. There are grounded possibilities. Camera frame rate mismatches, rolling shutter effects, screen refresh artifacts, compression or editing glitches. Modern cameras don't always capture what your eyes see, especially when filming screens or through digital layers. Things can vanish, flicker, or distort. It's not magic, but it looks like magic. Now, the casting agency claim. This one spreads fast because it's emotionally powerful. The idea that astronauts are actors taps into deeper distrust. But here's where things often unravel under scrutiny. Actors and real people can share names. Background databases get misread, roles get exaggerated. And the Mad Max extra claim? That's the kind of detail that sounds convincing but often falls apart when traced properly. Now, let's talk about the big one, the Van Allen radiation belts. My intuition and my channeling is drawing a hard line. The idea we can't pass through them because of radiation and shielding like lead would be too heavy. But here's the grounded physics. The Van Allen belts are real. They are dangerous, but they're not uniform walls of death. Apollo missions didn't sit in them. They passed through relatively quickly along trajectories designed to minimize exposure. Radiation dose higher than Earth, but within survival limits. Not zero risks, but not impossible. So, the question becomes less, is it lethal? And more, is it manageable? Now, astronauts returning after days in space looking fine. That feels wrong, doesn't it? You'd expect weakness, hospital beds, and dramatic recovery. But short missions, like around a week, don't always produce severe visible effects. Long-duration astronauts on the ISS, the International Space Station, yes, they need rehab. Short missions, often just monitoring and rest. So what looks suspicious might actually just be less cinematic than expected. Now, let's enter the realm of visuals that really shake people. And I know this. I watched NASA live stream, so I saw this too. Stars appearing inconsistently, CGI looking overlays, objects seeming to fall during re-entry, and cockpit visuals changing suddenly. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Modern broadcasts are not raw reality. They are edited, compressed, sometimes simulated for clarity, sometimes stitched together from multiple feeds. NASA has openly used visualizations alongside real footage. That means what you're seeing is sometimes a hybrid. Reality wearing a digital costume. Not necessarily deception, but not pure, untouched truth either. And that creates mistrust. Now, the ISS clips, the International Space Station. Astronauts tripping, wires, floating anomalies. These videos circulate constantly. Some are real moments taken out of context. Some are misunderstandings of how objects behave in microgravity, and some are outright edited to push a narrative. But here's the key point. When you already suspect something, every anomaly becomes confirmation. That's how the mind protects its model of reality. Now, let's address something deeper. I said when it comes to going to the moon, my stance is I don't know. I lived through the Apollo missions. I watched Challenger blow up, and now I've seen Artemis 2. But honestly, I don't know. And apparently that's actually the most intellectually honest position in this entire space, because there are two extremes. One, everything NASA shows is fake. Two, everything NASA shows is perfect and unquestionable. Both are too clean, too certain. Reality is messier. So, what's really going on? Here's a grounded middle path. Apollo missions very likely happened supported by physical evidence like lunar reflectors. Artemis missions are real, but their presentation is highly produced. NASA, like any large organization, manages perception as well as reality. Modern media layering makes authentic footage look artificial. So what we're seeing isn't necessarily a stage lie. It's reality filtered through layers of technology, editing, and storytelling. And sometimes that filter glitches. Now, the final question. If Artemis 2 really did go around the moon, why does it look sometimes fake? So why does it look sometimes fake? Because we're now in an era where real footage can look CGI. CGI can look real. And the line between them is dissolving. We're not just questioning space anymore. We're questioning perception itself. So, where does that leave us? Not with answers carved in stone, but with sharper questions. And maybe that's the point, because the moment you stop questioning is the moment someone else starts writing your reality for you. Thank you very much, beautiful people. So, as I said, this is where I land. Because of CGI, because of AI, even though the Apollo missions, we didn't have that. And I watched that as a child. But I really don't know. My channeling says we can't. But like I told you, question everything. And I have to even question my channeling. So my position and my elder son's position is we don't know. We honestly don't know. My youngest son is adamant that we absolutely did. But it doesn't help when astronauts won't sign on the Bible that they went. And remember now that the Apollo astronauts are getting in their late 80s and plus. Some of them died. And I watched a YouTube video recently talking about the Van Allen radiation belt. And it was asked, the astronaut was being interviewed and asked a question. How did you go through the Van Allen belt? How fast were you doing? And because the astronaut didn't know, it blew up. That was obviously, we didn't do it. The other interesting thing I found about the Apollo astronauts is that they're claiming their own conspiracy. Every mission claims they did go to the moon, and every mission claims that they saw anomalies on the moon that should not be there, some artificial stuff, and when they reported it to NASA kind of glossed over it, and they even have taken, these Apollo astronauts claim they've taken photographs and that NASA is hiding stuff. And the real reason why we haven't been back to the moon is not because we lost technology, but because of those photos that those Apollo astronauts took. So, yes, my son believes we did, and everything that I came out with, the conspiracy, there was 2 different shadows, what about the lighting? He explained away with logic. But the very thing about belief systems is once you strongly believe something, you believe it. And no amount of questioning will change that belief system. You believe it blindly. And the more the opposing questions come in and challenge that belief, the more you dig your heels in, you might even get angry. So I've been down rabbit holes. Originally, my belief system said, no, we didn't go to the moon. But now I sit with, I don't know. The other weird thing that's going around is that the female astronaut was actually in a Mad Max movie. And there's another movie, and I forget the title of it. And that movie was about a plan to go to the moon. But if that mission failed, they would stage it. And that plan to stage it was called Artemis. But can you see how people reach? Like, I've already done a video about how long the rocket Artemis 2 was. And remember, engineers now work in meters. But conspiracy theorists took how many meters it was and found that it converted to 322 feet. 322 is very special in the occult. The other thing that people are saying is in your face, that Artemis 2 took off on April Fool's Day, April the 1st. Well, in Australia, it was actually April the 2nd. But let's talk a minute about April Fool's Day. Do you know what is missing? Jokes end by 12 o'clock. So if you haven't tricked someone, that's why it's called April the Fool, before 12. If you try to trick someone after 12, You're the fool. And as far as I'm aware, Artemis 2 was launched after noon. So it's just a coincidence, people reaching. I also want to say I have seen the video of a female astronaut. She's appearing to be in space, like a where there's no gravity. And then side by side, she shows you like invisible strings. And when we see things like this, we question NASA. And the truth is, NASA isn't telling us the truth about everything. So this is why we get suspicious. This is why we question whether they went to the moon. And remember, Chinese, supposedly, was it a couple of years ago or a few years ago, they went to the moon? Are they lying? I know NASA stands for never a straight answer, but are the Chinese lying? And the other thing about Artemis 2 it wasn't just an American thing. When the Orion spacecraft came back to Earth, the section that actually broke off was a section made in Europe. So, on this channel, although I am a conspiracy theorist, and a lot of conspiracies actually later turn out to be fact, I don't think we can really be extreme about this. As I said, I watched as a child the Apollo missions. I saw what happened later, and I really thought that because of what happened with the loss of life with Challenger astronauts, that was the reason why NASA stopped it. Wasn't Challenger, please correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Challenger happen in the 1990s? And because, remember, there was a teacher on board and it exploded. It cost NASA a lot of money. And I thought because of this loss of life is why they stopped it. It's only recently that I've learnt through watching other things that we lost technology, but I honestly thought it was because of the disaster of Challengers. All right, can you please drop your comment and do so respectfully? Where do you stand? So I'll just repeat again. My channeling says no, we didn't, and that it's all CGI. But channeling, if remote viewing, is at 65% accurate, where is channeling? So my position after being down every rabbit hole, having conversations with my son, who logically, when I said, oh, this happened with the Apollo, this anomaly, so it can't be real, he's given me a logical answer. So my position, and I've seen all the missions, is honestly, I don't know. Where do you guys stand? And if you believe, yes, we do, we did and do, can you, in your comments, explain why the anomalies and what I explained about the movie, which was called the Artemis Plan? And is it just clickbait? And if you believe we never did and can't go to the moon, can you explain that reasoning to me, please, too? That on this channel, I always get you to question everything, including me. Thanks for watching, beautiful souls, if you got this far. And I ask that you be kind to each other, Take care of yourselves. Love, light, and blessings.